Today's topic is anatomy and physiology of endocrine system. Okay, so what is endocrine system? Let us see the introduction of endocrine system. So endocrine system, it is combination of glands, okay, different glands. They are doing or performing this whole system. Okay, so let us see what is gland. So gland is an organ which produce and release their substance that perform a specific function in our body. Okay, what is gland? It is a specific organ that produce as well as they release their chemical substance in the body, and they do or perform a specific function in our body. Then it is an organ that makes one or more substance, one or more chemical substance like the hormones, digestive juice, then sweat, then tears, then saliva or milk. Okay, so these type of the secretion or substance are produced by particular organ, so that is known as a gland. Okay, you can see in the figure, see this is the example of the glands. Okay, so this is the whole system that is known as a endocrine system. Okay, there it is a mixture of the glands. So that is the pineal glands, okay, that is located in the brain. Then hypothalamus, it is also located into the brain. Then pituitary gland, below the hypothalamus there is a pituitary gland. Then thymus gland, then the thyroid gland and thymus gland. Then see, this is the pancreas in the digestive system. Then adrenal glands over the kidneys. Then testes in the male and ovaries into the females. Okay, so these are the glands. They are performing a specific function in our body. Okay, they regulate the hormones. Now let us see the definition of gland. Okay, what is gland? It is an organ which secrete particular chemical substances for the use in body or discharge into the surroundings. Okay, so it is a particular organ, they secrete and release some substance, okay, into the body cavity or directly into the blood or discharge into the surroundings, okay, directly into the blood. So a gland is a group of the cells in the animal's body that synthesize substances such as the hormones for release into the bloodstream, that is known as a endocrine gland. Okay, as we have seen, what is endocrine gland? They secrete their secretion or hormones directly into the blood. Okay, that is the meaning of the endocrine gland, or into the cavities, okay, inside the body, that is, or its outer surface, that is known as a exocrine gland. Okay, see, this is the exocrine gland, see, this is the endocrine gland. Okay, in endocrine gland they are secreting directly into the blood, or else exocrine gland means they secrete their secretion via the duct. Okay, so two types of the gland are there. See, this is the figure of the glands. Okay, as we have seen in previous slide, there is a different glands in the endocrine system. Okay, they regulate the hormones into the body. So first one is the pineal gland, okay, that is located into the brain. Then hypothalamus and pituitary gland into the brain. Then thyroid gland into the throat. Then thymus gland, okay, see, this is the thymus gland. See, this is the pancreas. Pancreas, it is also a gland, okay, it is a mixed gland. Then adrenal gland, that is located over the kidneys. Then testes, okay, see, this is the testes into the male, and they are secreting testosterone. Then in the ovaries, that is located into the female. Okay, so they are also secreting the hormones, androgens. Okay, so let us see the details of gland. So first we will see the pituitary gland. Okay, so let us see the introduction of the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland and the hypothalamus act as a unit to regulate the activity of the most of other endocrine gland. Okay, the hypothalamus and pineal gland. Okay, pineal pituitary gland, it is a master gland. Okay, so master gland, it is helpful for the regulation of the all other the glands. Okay, so it is a master gland, and hypothalamus and pituitary gland, they both are work as a unit, and they are controlling and regulating the other glands. So that's why it is called as a master gland. Where it is located? It is located in the hypophyseal fossa of the sphenoid bone below the hypothalamus and attached by a stalk. Okay, so where it is located? Inside the skull. Okay, inside the brain. In the hypophyseal fossa, see, this is the, you can see this is the pituitary gland. Okay, in red color, it is a pituitary gland. So it is located in the hypophyseal fossa of the sphenoid bone. Okay, here there is a sphenoid bone. Okay, sphenoid bone, and below the hypothalamus. Okay, so above the pituitary gland there is the hypothalamus. So below the hypothalamus and attached with a stalk. You can see this is the stalk. What about the size of the pituitary gland? It's like a pea. Okay, the shape and size of the pituitary gland, it's like a pea. Then what about the weight? Weight of the pituitary gland, that is 500 mg. So this is all about the anatomy of the pituitary gland. Now let us see in next. It consists of the three distinct parts that originate from the different types of the cells. Okay, so and pituitary glands having a different part. Okay, so major three parts of the pituitary glands. Okay, so parts in that, three parts of the pituitary gland. So first one, that is the anterior pituitary. Second one, that is the posterior pituitary. Third one, that is the intermediate lobe. Okay, see, you can see in the figure. See, this is the anterior pituitary. See, this is the posterior pituitary, and middle portion here. Okay, here there is a intermediate lobe. Okay, intermediate lobe. Okay, so three major part of the pituitary gland: anterior portion, that is known as the anterior pituitary; posterior portion, that is known as a posterior pituitary; and between anterior and posterior portion there is a middle portion, that is known as a intermediate lobe. Okay, now anterior pituitary, it is also known as a adenohypophysis. Okay, adenohypophysis, and the posterior pituitary, that is also known as a neurohypothesis. Okay, hypophysis. So this is the another name or synonym of the anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. Now intermediate lobe. So between these two lobes there is a thin strip of the tissue that is called as a intermediate lobe, and its function in the human, that is not known. Okay, yet there is no any significant function of the intermediate lobe. Okay, so this is the parts of the pituitary gland. Okay, three major parts: anterior pituitary, that is known as a adenohypophysis; then posterior pituitary, that is known as a neurohypophysis; and third one, that is a intermediate lobe. It is a thin strip like a tissue. Okay, and there is no any significant work in our human body. Now most important part, that is the hormones of the pituitary glands. So let us see the hormones of the anterior lobe, or we can say anterior pituitary. Okay, so the hormones of the anterior pituitary, that is the growth hormone, that is called as a GH. Okay, then prolactin. Then third one is a thyroid stimulating hormone, that is also known as a TSH. Then adrenocorticotropic hormone, that is known as a ACTH. Then next one, that is a follicle stimulating hormone, that is known as a FSH. Then luteinizing hormone, that is represented as a LH. Okay, so these are the hormones. It is the most important hormones of the anterior pituitary gland. Okay, so total 6 hormones are there into the anterior lobes. Okay, so anterior pituitary secreting 6 hormones in our body. So which are the hormones? First one is a growth hormone, second is prolactin, then TSH, then ACTH, then follicle stimulating hormone, that is a FSH, and last one, that is a luteinizing hormone, that is LH. Then second portion, that is the intermediate lobe. Okay, see, this is the second lobe, or in between lobe, that is the intermediate lobe. So it also secretes A and B melanocyte stimulating hormone. Okay, so it is represented as a FSH. Okay, so melanocyte stimulating hormone. Okay, A and B. Then third part, that is a posterior lobe, or we can say posterior pituitary glands. It secretes two major hormones. Which are they? So first one is a vasopressin and second one is a oxytocin. Okay, vasopressin, it is also known as a ADH, antidiuretic hormone. Okay, vasopressin, another name ADH, means antidiuretic hormone. And second hormone, that is a oxytocin. So these are the major hormones of the pituitary glands: anterior pituitary, posterior pituitary, and intermediate lobe. Now we will see in detail in next slide. Then what about the blood supply of the pituitary glands? So arterial blood supply given by the internal carotid artery, and venous drainage, that is done by the internal carotid veins. Now the influence of the hypothalamus on the pituitary glands. The hypothalamus on the release of the hormones is different in the anterior and posterior lobes of the pituitary glands. Okay, hypothalamus also trigger to release some hormones from the pituitary glands. Okay, so hypothalamus, it is also controlling as well as regulating glands. So there is a different amount of the production that will be caused by the anterior pituitary as well as the posterior pituitary gland. Now first part, that we will see the anterior pituitary. Okay, so let us see anterior pituitary gland. A network of the blood vessels forms part of the pituitary portal system. Okay, there is a network of the blood vessels, they form a particular network of the pituitary portal system, which transport the blood from the hypothalamus to the anterior pituitary. Okay, from hypothalamus to anterior pituitary, as well as providing the oxygen and nutrients. These bloods transport releasing as well as the inhibiting hormones that is secreted by the thalamus. Okay, anterior pituitary glands also helpful for the releasing hormones as well as the inhibiting hormones. Okay, what is inhibiting hormones? Some hormones are produced by the anterior pituitary glands, while that time overproduction is there. So anterior pituitary gland try to stop the hormones. Okay, so that for that inhibiting hormones are there. So these hormones influence the secretion as well as the release of the other hormones that is formed into the anterior pituitary. Okay. Now let us see the hormones. Hypothalamus, anterior pituitary, and which are the target gland or tissue. Okay, where the hormones will goes into the particular target or specific organs to act into the body. So hypothalamus is triggering, it is a triggering material. Okay, so they trigger the anterior pituitary gland and they secrete the hormones, and then hormones will goes into the specific organs. For example, first one is a growth hormone releasing hormone. Okay, so growth hormone releasing hormone will be secreted by the hypothalamus. They trigger the secretion of the growth hormone into the anterior pituitary glands, and it is growth hormone that is the synonym of the growth hormone, that is known as a somatotropin. Okay, then these hormone will directly goes into the most of the tissues as well as the many organs in our body, because they producing growth. Okay, they producing multiplication of the cells and tissues. So the growth is because of the growth hormone. Okay, our body is developing, our body is expanding. Okay, our size, or we can say length, height and weight are increasing. Why? Because of the growth hormone. Okay, so the growth hormone will directly goes into the most of the tissues as well as the cells in our body. Then second hormone, that is a growth hormone releasing inhibiting hormone. Okay, so another name of the GHRIH, that is a somatostatin. Okay, so they cause the growth hormone inhibition. Okay, so they stop the growth hormone into the anterior pituitary gland, and it is also helpful for the TSH inhibition. Okay, thyroid stimulating hormone inhibition. What are the target organ? Okay, where the secretion will goes, okay, transfer into the thyroid gland. Okay, TSH inhibition, that's why thyroid gland, pancreatic islets and most of the tissue in our body. Then TRH, that is a thyrotropin releasing hormone. Okay, they trigger the TSH, that is a thyroid stimulating hormone, okay, into the anterior pituitary gland, where they are secreting or where they are going into the specific or target gland, that is a thyroid gland. Okay, then next one is a CRH, that is a corticotropin releasing hormone. They trigger the which hormone? ACTH. Okay, ACTH into the anterior pituitary gland. Anterior pituitary gland secrete the ACTH, that is known as a, what is meaning of ACTH? Adrenocorticotropic hormone. Okay, so this hormone will directly goes into the adrenal cortex and then it will secrete into the body. What is adrenal cortex? Okay, that is a adrenal gland. Okay, that is located above the kidney. Then PRH, prolactin releasing hormone. Okay, so prolactin releasing hormone trigger which hormone? PRL. Okay, that is also known as a prolactin, or we can say lactogenic hormones, that will directly goes into the breast and they are helpful for the milk production. Then PIH, that is prolactin inhibiting hormones. It is also known as a dopamine. Okay, so it trigger into the anterior pituitary gland and they secrete the PRL inhibition. Okay, to stop the PRL or prolactin hormone. And what is the target organ? That is a breast. Then next one is a LHRH, that is a luteinizing hormone releasing hormone. Okay, they trigger the FSH into the anterior pituitary gland, and FSH, that is follicle stimulating hormone, they secrete from the anterior pituitary gland and then it will goes into the ovaries as well as the testes. Okay, ovaries into the female and testes into the male. Then next one is a GNRH, that is known as a gonadotropin releasing hormone. They trigger to anterior pituitary gland to secrete the LH. What is LH? Luteinizing hormone, and this hormone will secreted by the anterior pituitary gland and it will goes directly into the ovaries and the testes. Okay, into the female and the male. Okay, so these are the organs and this is the combination of the hypothalamus and pituitary glands. Okay, so this is the, it is a combined or it is a unit function. Okay, so as we have seen hormones of the anterior lobes, first, okay, total 6 hormones are there. So first one is a growth hormone, second one is a prolactin, third one is a thyroid stimulating hormone, Fourth one is a adrenocorticotropic hormone, that is known as ACTH. Then 5 one is a follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, and 6th one is a luteinizing hormone, that is represented as a LH. Okay, so these are the glands or hormones that is related to the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. We will see in detail one by one hormone. So first one is a growth hormone. Okay, so growth hormone, it is represented as a GH. Okay, GH, G means growth, H means hormones. Okay, growth hormones. So it is the most abundant hormones synthesized by the anterior pituitary gland. Okay, it is the most abundant, or we can say most vital hormones that is very helpful for the growth and production of the body. Then it stimulate the growth and division of the most of the body cells, but especially those into the bones and the skeletal muscles. So it is very helpful for the stimulation of the growth of the body, as well as it is helpful for the division of the body cells, so they can develop. Okay, they can do growth and size will be increased mostly into the bones and the skeletal muscles. So that's why our body will be growing. Then body growth in response of the secretion of the GH is evident during the childhood and the adolescence. Okay, most of the secretion, it is most evident into the childhood and the adulthood. Why? Because at that time more growth will be and transitional changes will be occur in this period. Okay, during the childhood as well as the adolescence. Then after, the secretion of the growth hormone maintains the mass of the bone and the skeletal muscles. Okay, so after the adolescence there will be the inhibition of the growth hormone. So that's why after the adolescence the height will be not increasing. Okay, so muscle mass, it is also not increasing. The size of the bone, that will be constant. It is also regulate the aspect of the metabolism in many organs. Okay, so it is helpful for the metabolism in some organs like the liver, okay, intestine, pancreas, stimulate the protein synthesis, okay, especially into the tissue growth and repair, promote the breakdown of the fats, increase the blood glucose level. Okay, so it has some significant function into the metabolism also. Okay, so in these type of the organs, it is helpful for the growth hormone. It is stimulated by the growth hormone releasing hormone, that is known as the GHRH, and suppression of this growth hormone, that is done by the growth hormone release inhibiting hormone. Okay, that is known as a GHIRIH. Okay, that is also known as a somatostatin. Okay, so both of which are secreted by the hypothalamus. Okay, so these both are secreted by the hypothalamus. Okay, GHRH and GHRIH. Okay, growth hormone releasing hormone. Okay, they release the growth hormone, and growth hormone releasing inhibiting hormone, so they stop the growth hormone. Okay, so these both are secreted by the hypothalamus and they trigger the anterior pituitary gland. The secretion of the growth hormone, that is greater at the night during the sleep, and it is also stimulated by the hypoglycemia, exercise as well as the anxiety. Okay, so most of the secretion of the growth hormone, that will be greater during the night time. Okay, during the sleep time. Okay, so most of the growth will be occur at the night time. Also there is some factors, they can affect the growth hormone release, that is the hypoglycemia. What is hypoglycemia? What is exercise and anxiety? So these are the factors. Okay, so they can cause the stimulation or secretion of the secretion as well as the stoppage of the hormones. Then the daily amount of secreted during the peaks into the adolescence. Okay, during the entire journey of the life, the daily amount secreted in the peaks level, that is about at the time of the adolescence. Okay, so at the time of the adolescence, the puberty changes are there. So puberty changes in that physical body or physical as well as the body changes are there. So these changes are occur because of the growth hormone. So that's why during the adolescence its level is peaks during the entire life, then it declines with the age. Okay, after the particular age, okay, after the adolescence, the growth hormone is released, inhibiting hormone will be triggered and they try to stop the growth hormone. So that's why the development or growth will be declined with the age. Then growth hormone releasing inhibiting hormone, they suppress the secretion of the thyroid stimulating hormone as well as the GI secretion like gastric juice, gastrin and cholecystokinin. Okay, some amount of the metabolism function is there. Okay, so they suppress the secretion of the thyroid stimulating hormone as well as the suppress the GI secretions. Now let us see some disease related the growth hormone, or we can say applied anatomy related to the growth hormone. So first condition, that is known as a gigantism. Okay, so what is gigantism? So it is due to overproduction of the growth hormone during the adolescence. Okay, while adolescence there is the overproduction of the growth hormone. Okay, beyond the normal amount of the growth hormone, that is known as a gigantism. Okay, so it is characterized by a tall stature, then bilateral gynecomastia, then large hand and feet. Okay, see, this is an example of the gynecomastia. So what is gynecomastia? There is a breast development. Okay, breast development into the male, that is known as a gynecomastia. So this is also a condition because of the overproduction of the growth hormone during the adolescence. Okay, breast development into the male. Okay, that is known as a gynecomastia. Then large hand and feet. Okay, see, this is the large hand. Okay, large hand and feet. Okay, the feet that is in larger size than the normal, that is a clinical feature of the gigantism. Okay, see, this is the example of the Khali. Okay, it is also he has a growth hormone related abnormality. Then next one is acromegaly. Okay, so what is acromegaly? It is due to excessive secretion of the growth hormone during the adulthood. Okay, this is the second condition, that is known as acromegaly. Okay, why? Because of the excessive secretion. Okay, excessive secretion of the growth hormone during the adolescence. So it is characterized by the broad thick nose. Okay, see, you can see this is the broad and thick nose. Then thickening of the skin. Okay, skin become thickened. Then prominent brows. Okay, see, this is the prominent brow area. Okay, then prognathism, that is known as elongation and widening of the mandible. Okay, see, you can see this is the prognathism. Okay, elongation and widening of the mandible bone. Okay, mandible, that is known as a prognathism. Okay, so these are the characteristics of the acromegaly. Then next condition that is related to growth hormone, that is known as a dwarfism. Okay, what is dwarfism? So it is deficiency of the growth hormone secretion during the adolescence, okay, or during the childhood. There is a lack amount of the growth hormone secretion, that is known as a dwarfism. So it is characterized by, which are the clinical features of the dwarfism? Shortness of the stature, then small genitalia, and delicate extremities. Okay, so you can see in the figures, this is the picture of the dwarfism. Okay, you can see there is a very delicate extremities, hands and the foots. Okay, small genital organs, as well as the small shortness of shortened height. Okay, so these are the clinical feature of the dwarfism. Why? Because there is a less amount of the growth hormone. So the organs or the body that cannot be developed fully. Now we have completed the growth hormone. Now second hormone of the anterior pituitary gland, that is known as the prolactin. Okay, so what is prolactin? So this hormone is secreted during the pregnancy. Okay, this hormone is secreted during the pregnancy to prepare the breast. Okay, to prepare the breast during the pregnancy for the lactation. Means what is lactation? Lactation means the milk production into the breast. Okay, so that is known as the process, that is known as the lactation. Okay, after the childbirth. Okay, after the childbirth, the milk production into the breast, that is known as the lactation. So they prepare the breast for the lactation. Okay, then action of the prolactin, which is the main action of the prolactin. Prolactin plays an important role into the development of the mammary gland and in the milk synthesis. Okay, two major functions. First one is the development of the mammary gland during pregnancy, and second most important function or action of the prolactin, that is the milk synthesis after pregnancy, means after childbirth. Okay, after childbirth, it is helpful for the milk production or synthesis of the milk into the breast. Now we will see the control of the prolactin secretion. So in that, two major factors. First one is a stimulating factor. So they act via the stimulating prolactin releasing factor. Okay, for example, during the exercise, okay, during the emotional stress, okay, during pregnancy, during the breastfeeding. Okay, so in these all factors are the stimulating factors. So they secrete the milk into the breast. Second one is the inhibiting factors. Okay, so what is inhibiting factor? What is the meaning of inhibition? They stop the hormone, okay, from the releasing organ. So it is which is released by the hypothalamus. Okay, always hypothalamus try to trigger to anterior pituitary glands. So that's why the hypothalamus inhibit the prolactin secretion from the anterior pituitary. Dopamine may be the main prolactin inhibitory factors. Okay, so hypothalamus inhibit the prolactin hormones and they trigger to anterior pituitary glands and prolactin will be stopped. So this is the inhibitory factor. Okay, now third hormone of the anterior pituitary gland, that is known as a thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay, that is known as a TSH. So this hormone, it is synthesized by the anterior pituitary gland. Okay, and its release, it is stimulated by the thyrotropin releasing hormone, that is TRH, from the hypothalamus. Okay, the release and control, that is stimulated by the hypothalamus. Okay, and the secretion, that is synthesized by the anterior pituitary gland. Okay, so from anterior pituitary they synthesize thyroid stimulating hormone, and for the controlling or releasing hormone, that is known as a TRH. Okay, thyrotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus. So it stimulates the thyroid gland and they produce two major hormones, that is the thyroxine, that is known as a T4, and second one is a triiodothyronine. Okay, that is known as a T3. Okay, so two major hormones secreted by the thyroid gland. Okay, that is T3 and T4. What is a T3? Triiodothyronine, and T4, that is a thyroxine. Okay, so release is lowest during the early evening and highest during the night. Okay, during the night the secretion of the thyroid gland, that is the highest during the night. Okay, and in the lowest there is the into the early evening. Okay, during the evening. Then fourth one is a adrenocorticotropic hormone, that is represented as a ACTH. Okay, adrenocorticotropic hormone. Okay, so it is secreted by the anterior pituitary gland, often produced in the response of the biological stress. Okay, so it is also a factor that can cause the secretion of the ACTH. Okay, so at time of the biological stress or physical stress. So its principal effects are increase the production and release of the corticosteroid. Okay, so because of the biological stress there will be the increased production as well as the release of the corticosteroid, okay, from the ACTH. So ACTH levels are highest at the 8 am, okay, during the morning at the time of the 8 am. Okay, so there at that time highest amount of the ACTH will be secreted and it falls to their lowest about the midnight. Okay, during the midnight there is the decrease or lowest amount during the midnight, although high levels sometimes occur at the midday and 6 pm. Okay, so at the evening or in the midday sometimes highest amount can be released. Why? Because of at sometimes there is some factors they can affect, so the changes in the secretion. Then fifth hormones of the anterior pituitary gland, that is known as a follicle stimulating hormone, that is represented as a FSH. Okay, follicle stimulating hormones. So it is synthesized and secreted by the anterior pituitary glands. Okay, so for FSH regulate the development, growth and pubertal maturation and reproductive process of the body. Okay, follicle stimulating hormone, it is very important for the development, for the growth and for the pubertal maturation of the physique, okay, during the adolescence, okay, and reproductive process of the body. In both sex, in male and female, FSH stimulate the production of the gametes. Okay, what is gametes? It is a known as the ova and spermatozoa. Okay, ova or we can say ovum, that will be released from the ovary. Okay, ovary into the female, and spermatozoa that will be released from the testes, okay, into the male. Okay, so these both are known as the gametes. Okay, what is gametes? Ovary, ova and the spermatozoa by the gonads. Okay, so it is helpful for the stimulation of the production of the gametes into the male as well as the females. Then sixth or last hormones of the anterior pituitary glands, that is a luteinizing hormone. Okay, so it is represented as a LH. Okay, luteinizing hormones. So it is a hormone produced by the anterior pituitary glands in females. An acute rise of the LH trigger the ovulation. Okay, LH trigger the ovulation and development of the corpus luteum. Okay, so luteinizing hormones, it is very essential for the ovulation. Okay, what is ovulation? The ovum will be released from the ovary. Okay, that is known as the ovulation into the female. Okay, so LH luteinizing hormone trigger the ovulation into the female and development of the corpus luteum. Okay, corpus luteum, it is also a phase of the ovulation or we can say menstrual cycle. Okay, in males it stimulate the production of the testosterone. Okay, so there is also a function into the male. Okay, so that is a production of the testosterone. Okay, it is a male hormone, male sex hormone. Okay, so they secrete the testosterone into the male. you can see this is the into the male there is a testis will secrete the testosterone, and ovaries will secrete the androgens, or we can in that the estrogen and progesterone, and they trigger the ovulation. Then in female, luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone are involved in the secretion of the hormones like estrogen and progesterone during the menstrual cycle. Okay, during the menstrual cycle there is the both hormones are important. Okay, estrogen as well as the progesterone, these both hormones are maintaining the menstrual cycle. Okay, what is menstrual cycle? Okay, that is a 28 days cycle. Okay, that is known as a menstrual cycle. So these both hormones are involved in secretion of the estrogen and the progesterone. Okay, as the levels of the estrogen and progesterone rise, the secretion of the LH and FSH is suppressed. Okay, when the estrogen and progesterone will be rise, okay, it will be increased. At that time, LH and FSH, this secretion will be suppressed. Okay, so they are working as opposite. In males, LH involved in the testes to secrete the hormone that is known as a testosterone. So we have seen the anterior pituitary gland. Okay, now we will see the intermediate lobe of the pituitary gland. Okay, what is the intermediate lobe? See, this is in green color. Okay, that is the intermediate lobe. Okay, between anterior and posterior lobe there is a single cell layer that is known as the intermediate lobe. Now let us see the hormones of the intermediate lobe. That is two major hormone: alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone, or in some books it is written like A and B. Okay, so alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone, okay, also represented as a MSH, and second one is a beta melanocyte stimulating hormone. Okay, two major hormones are there. The function of this hormone, they stimulate the production of the melanin hormone by the melanocytes into the skin, okay, and the hair. Okay, so the production of the melanin, okay, melanin, it is a helpful for the skin color. Okay, so melanin production, it is occur because of the melanocyte stimulating hormone. So where it is located, melanin production will be occur into the skin and the hair. Then MSH signal to the brain have effects on the appetite and as well as the sexual arousal. Okay, also melanocyte stimulating hormone gives signals or they triggers to the effects on the appetite as well as the sexual arousal. So this is the two hormone. Now third portion, that is the posterior pituitary gland. Okay, that is the located at the posterior side. So let us see the hormones of the posterior lobe. Okay, that is the two major hormone that is known as the vasopressin. The another name of the vasopressin, that is the ADH, antidiuretic hormone. Okay, okay, antidiuretic hormone, that is represented as the ADH. And second most important hormone, that is the oxytocin. Okay, so both are very important and essential of the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. So let us see in detail. First one is the antidiuretic hormone. Okay, so that is known as the ADH, or we can say vasopressin. So the main effect of the ADH hormone is reduce the urine output. Okay, what they are causing? The reduce the urine output from the kidneys or kidney tubules. ADH is stored into the posterior pituitary glands and they secreted into the bloods, and this hormone will directly goes into the adrenal gland, okay, over the kidney. You can see in this figure. Okay, see, this is the adrenal gland. Now the function of the ADH, that is two primary function or major function of the ADH, to retain the water into the body and to constrict the blood vessels. Okay, they retain the water into the body and it is also reduce the urine output. Why? Because they are trying to retain water inside the body. So that's why the urine output will be reduced. Okay, so vice versa. Then to constrict the blood vessels. Okay, also they produce the constriction into the blood vessels. Now applied anatomy, or we can say disease related to the antidiuretic hormone. In that, first one is the diabetes insipidus. Okay, diabetes insipidus. So it is characterized by a excessive thirst and excretion of the large amount of the severely diluted urine. Why? Because they retain the water inside the body. So that's why a severely diluted urine will be there. Okay, so excretion of the large amount of the severely diluted urine and excessive thirst. Okay, so this is the two major characteristic of the diabetes insipidus. Then next, that is the disease related to antidiuretic hormone, in that the polyuria. Okay, so it is the excessive or abnormally large production of the urine. What is polyuria? Poly means more. Okay, what is poly? Poly means more. Okay, urea means urine production. Is a more than normal amount of the urine production, that is known as the polyuria. Then at least what is the amount of the urine? That is the urine output, that is 2.5 or 3 liter per day into the adult. Okay, so this is a polyuria. Now second hormones related to the posterior pituitary gland, that is the oxytocin. So oxytocin, it is synthesized into the hypothalamus and stored into the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. Okay, synthesized into the hypothalamus. Okay, hypothalamus, that then it will comes into the posterior part of the pituitary gland. Okay, now let us see the action of the oxytocin. Oxytocin stimulates the contraction of the mammary gland to produce the milk. Okay, it is helpful for the milk production into the breast. So that's why it stimulates the contraction into the mammary glands. Okay, what is mammary glands? That is also known as a breast. Okay, so they stimulate the contraction of the mammary glands to produce the milk. Okay, so milk production, it is one of the function of the oxytocin. They stimulate the contraction of the smooth muscles of the uterus. Okay, so they also stimulate the contraction of the smooth muscles into the uterus during the labor process or during the delivery. The level rise during the sexual arousal in both male and females. Okay, during the sexual arousal, the oxytocin level become high. So these are the action, or we can say a function of the oxytocin. See, these are the hormones related to anterior pituitary gland and posterior pituitary glands. Okay, you can see this is the posterior pituitary gland hormone, and see, this is the anterior pituitary gland. So as we have seen in the anterior pituitary, 6 hormone, that is a growth hormone, okay, thyroid stimulating hormone, ACTH, that is the adrenocorticotropic hormone, FSH and LH, that is follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, prolactin, okay, prolactin that prepare the mammary glands into the mammals, growth hormone that will be directly affect the whole bodies for the growth of the bodies, mostly in the skeletal muscles and the bones. Then follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormones, that will triggers directly into the testes and ovaries, and they secrete the androgens. Then ACTH, they secrete the hormones corticosteroid from the adrenal cortex, or we can say adrenal glands, and thyroid stimulating hormone, they act into the thyroid gland, and thyroid glands secrete the hormones T3 and T4. Now posterior pituitary gland, in that two major hormones. First one is a vasopressin, or we can say it is known as a antidiuretic hormone. Okay, they directly affect into the kidney tubules and they concentrate the urines and retain the water. Then oxytocin, second hormones of the posterior pituitary glands, it helps into the preparation or contraction of the mammary gland as well as the uterine muscles during the labor process. So we have finished the pituitary glands. Now second portion, that is the thyroid gland. Okay, next gland, that is a thyroid gland. So let us see the anatomy of the thyroid gland. Okay, so first we will see the location of the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is situated in the neck. Okay, where it is located? Situated into the neck, in front of the larynx, and the trachea. Okay, and at the level of the 5th, 6th and 7th cervical and first thoracic vertebra. Okay, 5th, 6th cervical vertebra, or we can say last cervical and first thoracic vertebra. Okay, so this is the location of the thyroid gland, where it is located into the neck area, in front of the larynx and the trachea, and at the posterior side there is a 5th, 6th and 7th cervical and first thoracic vertebra. Now we will see the weight of the thyroid gland, that is approximately about the 25 grams. With 25 grams of the thyroid gland. What about the shape? Shape, that is in butterfly in shape. The thyroid gland, you can see this is in butterfly in shape. Okay, butterfly in shape. Then consisting two lobes. Okay, it has a two lobes. Okay, so it has a two lobes. The lobe are joined by a narrow isthmus. Okay, so this is a isthmus. Okay, this is the isthmus. So these two lobes, this one lobe, and see this is the second lobe. See, both lobes are joined with a narrow isthmus, and these lobes are roughly in cone shape. Okay, these lobes are shaped as a cone shape. Okay, cone shape. About 5 cm long and 3 cm wide. Okay, this is the size of the lobe, thyroid lobe. So it has a two lobes. Okay, two lobes are joined with a isthmus. Okay, so middle portion it is known as a isthmus, and two lobes has a roughly cone shaped area, and about measurement, that is 5 cm into 3 cm. Now we will see the blood supply of the thyroid gland. So in that, first one is arterial blood supply, which is given by the superior and inferior thyroid artery. See, this is the superior and inferior thyroid artery. See, this is the inferior thyroid artery. And venous drainage, that is done by the thyroid vein, which drain into the internal jugular veins. What about the nerve supply? That is the given by the recurrent laryngeal nerves. Okay, laryngeal nerves, they given the supply, nerve supply to the thyroid gland. Now we will see the hormones of the thyroid gland, that is known as a T3 and T4. Okay, what is T3? Triiodothyronine. See, this is the T3. Okay, and see, this is the T4. Okay, thyroxine. So T3 and T4, both hormones of the thyroid glands. So iodine is essential for the formation of the thyroid hormone. Okay, production and the formation as well as the synthesis of the thyroid hormone, it is helpful for the development in that the thyroxine and the triiodothyronine, and this formation is helpful and iodine, it is essential for this production. Okay, intake of iodine into the diet, it is essential for these two hormones production in a thyroid gland. So the body's main dietary sources for the iodine are seafood. Okay, in the seafood there is more amount of the iodine. In the vegetables, that is grown into the iodine rich soil, as well as the iodinated stable salt. Okay, in the salt also. So this is the dietary sources of the iodine. So we have to take the iodine into our diet for the production of the T3 and T4 by the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland selectively takes up iodine from the bloods, and this process, it is called as a iodine trapping. Okay, what is iodine trapping? The thyroid gland take up the iodine from the blood. Okay, thyroid gland takes up iodine directly from the blood. That process, it is known as a iodine trapping. Okay, so it is very essential for our body. Okay, for the production of the T3 and T4. Now two hormone, that is T3 and T4, okay, triiodothyronine and thyroxine. So T3, it affect almost every physiological process in the body. For example, for the help of the growth and development of the whole body, for the metabolism, okay, then body temperature, then maintain the heart rate. Okay, so these are the all physiological function that will be controlled by the T3 hormone. Okay, so T3, it is essential. Next one is a thyroxine hormone, that is known as a T4. So what is function of the T4? It control the development and the maturation. Okay, then excess thyroxine result into the rapid development. So that's why it is helpful for the control of the development. Okay, it stop the overdevelopment, okay, overgrowth of the cells and maturation. Deficiency of the thyroxine, which results into the delay development. Okay, if the level of the thyroxine, it will be increased. Okay, so more growth. Okay, more growth, while the level will be decreased, so there will be delay development. Okay, so delay development. Okay, here more development. Okay, so this is the function, or we can say action, of the thyroid hormones. Okay, T3 and T4.